We should be live, but I'm not sure. Let's hope we are. Here, I've got my phone. If we are live, hello. I'm just checking to make sure we are. I'm not sure. Oh, we're live. Hello. Okay, welcome. It is time to do some music production. It's been a while since I've done anything on the Sheepwave channel or social media of any sort. What's up, Ash? So, I've been working on a lot of stuff lately. I'm actually working on a new album that I hope to have done probably around October, November time. Outside of that, I've got a lot of music projects that I've been working on that aren't involved with the album. And then because I'm not busy enough as it is, this past Friday, I started producing something entirely outside of what I normally do. And that is this electronic song that we're going to be working on today. And I've been working on it constantly. It's the only thing that's gotten me away from playing Fire Emblem Three Houses. I don't know. I just love it. So I'm going to play it real quick. And you're going to hear it multiple times as we do this stream, because I'm going to be going through, adding new things, explaining things. So get used to listening to it. But here it is in its entirety. Let's go.
So far from the happy ending, swept up in your current, in your light. I break free of the endless, step out to a new beginning. I lose my defenses in your eyes. I come alive, I breathe it in, I feel the warmth burning on my skin. You're breaking through the darkest skies. You're bringing hope to my empty eyes. So pull me out and guide me home. I'll never get to it on my own. And when your light is fading out, I'll chase away all your aching down. So give me a reason not to love you. Give me a reason not to hold you tight. Give me a reason not to love you, and I will shatter all of your reasons tonight.
All right, so I don't know where the crap this song came from. It just kind of hit me out of nowhere. It's the way beginning is sung at the start. I don't remember that lyric. Where is that lyric? I had to pull up the lyrics now. Step out to a new beginning. Well, you're just going to have to deal with it. So, Ashley brought up a good point in the comments about the vocals. So, they may sound a little bit weird to you. And that's because I intentionally made them really weird. So, that's me singing. But here's the thing. I sang it 2 keys lower than what this song actually is. And then after I sang it and adjusted the vocals and everything, I pitched it back up 2 keys just to see what would happen. Legitimately, I did it out of curiosity. Right underneath that, I've also got another layer of vocals that are vocoded. We're gonna get into that. I want to discuss that last, actually. So I just kind of want to go over a little bit of what's going on here in the song. The drums, there's nothing much special going on here. The crash has some nice delay on it, so it just kind of keeps repeating. Kind of sounds cool. Here, the drum pattern is pretty basic. Nothing really much happens outside of that except for like some toms that hit. Stop it. It's just a lot of fun. I don't care. Don't make me aware of things, Ashley. All right. Outside of that, we got the bass. I don't know why I say outside of that a lot. It's a terrible filler phrase. So that bass is, let me pull that up. That bass is actually two different. Why is it doing some weirdness here? It's two different bass synths going on. We got the fat bass. Turn off the drums. And then we got the sub bass underneath, which is just a straight up sine wave, which means it's just like, I don't really know the logistics, I guess, behind a lot of the synthesizer talk. I'm still learning it all. But it's just a simple bass note. In fact, you probably can't even hear that too well unless you're using headphones or you're on a computer that has good speakers. But if you're using your phone and listening to that, you probably didn't even hear what I just played. But it makes a huge difference when you're playing it on good speakers. Your opinion doesn't matter. So when the two basses together are combined, it makes a nice little big bass. I'm so tired. After that, we've got the piano, which only shows up there at the beginning part, and then it has a little section here as it goes into the drop. As that goes on, that starts to get a little bit harder to hear, but that's because everything else kind of starts amping up. And I think it's cool that it kind of fades out. After the piano, we've got the synth chords. Now there's a lot to unpack with the synth chords, so let's just start going through it. So here at the beginning, we've only got one synthesizer playing anything outside of those bass chords, and that's this pad that we've got here. Let me put it there so that way we have the full sound. So what that is, what's going on here is we have three different oscillators going into the synthesizer. We got the standard synth wave or a sine wave. Let me just, which sounds like that by itself. Then we've got the, I don't know, it's kind of like a modified saw. I don't know the names of all these. Adds a little bit of high end on top, and that's slightly detuned. So it's not like a perfect note. It's slightly imperfect, but that makes it sound better. And then underneath that, we've got a square wave to kind of make it sound even cooler. I don't know. Modified, the modifiers we got on that. So the volume, what we do is we've added a little bit of attack. So that means that the note doesn't just hit immediately. It kind of fades in just slightly. That sounded disgusting. Fades in. So here's what it sounds like without that volume. Here's what it sounds like with the volume automation. It's a very slight thing, and most people aren't going to notice it anyway, but it just adds a nice little softness to it. Then on the pitch control, we have an LFO going, very, very slight amount. What the LFO does is it kind of shakes the pitch. So here's what it sounds like if we were to turn that up. Sounds terrible. But we have it literally like at the least amount that we can without it being zero. And it just adds a nice little touch. We don't do that. Let's not actually do that. So that's what's going on with that synthesizer. It's a really nice sound, especially mixed in with the piano and the bass and everything. All right. So once we get to this big section here, I'm gonna turn off everything except for the synthesizers. We have, I believe, 2 or 3 more synthesizers joining in. Which makes it just sound huge. So let's look at those chords real quick. The first one, I call it shaky chords. So let me mute everything. First shape we've got is this weird square sine mix. Don't know what that really is. Slightly detuned. Second one we got as a square. No detune on that. And it's turned up quite a bit. And then on top of that, we have this dice turned on, which is white noise. So here's what that white noise sounds like if we turn that up. But we just add a touch of that so it gives like a nice crisp high end. Then here on the envelope instrument settings, first thing we've got is the panning. What's going on here in the comments? Hello, Ashley. Beginning makes me think of like whenever you play Sonic Adventure 1 and Knuckles is like shown, that chill music that plays when Knuckles is like shown. I see what you're saying. Yes. So on this synthesizer with the panning, we've got that LFO turned on again. So it just keeps constantly panning back and forth between the left and right speaker. Once again, you're going to hear this a lot more if you're wearing headphones or if you got a good speaker setup or if you're in the car or something like that. If you're just on your phone, you're not going to hear this very well. But here's what that effect sounds like if we turn it up a lot. Which is a bit too much in my opinion. So we just add a little bit so it just makes it sound bigger. Then I'm pretty sure we got something else going on here. So it looks like we should have something else going on, but I don't. That's interesting. Oh, on the volume. There we go. Be offended. So the volume's got a similar thing going on where it just constantly bounces up and down just a little bit, just adjusting ever so slightly. Let's turn that up and see what it sounds like. I spat a little bit there. I am so sorry you had to see that, if you could see it. If not, I just made you aware of it and now I'm embarrassed. Okay, so again, just a slight touch of that adds a really nice effect to that synthesizer. After that, we got mid-high chords. I'm really good at naming things, aren't I? Now, the reason I named it mid-high is because it's mostly mid, but it has a little bit of high end with this white noise again. The main shape is this, I guess it's like a saw square wave kind of thing. Detuned a little bit more than normal. Then a sine wave underneath that, an octave lower here on the coarse settings. And then, like I said, a little bit of white noise. Same thing happening with the volume where it kind of fluctuates a little bit. It's got a little bit of an attack, so it doesn't start immediately. And that's it. I should also mention that on the previous synthesizer, we had this SFV low pass. Don't know what that really means. The modulation Y turned to halfway, so it gives like a nice little interesting effect to it. Let me show you what that sounds like. It's a very subtle effect, actually. Like it's not much, but it adds a little bit more high end, which I'm all about apparently. So all three of those together with that pad that we've already talked about. And then we throw in those basses. And then there's another synthesizer going on top of that, which is the arpeggiated synth, or the ARP for short. Let me pull that one back up. Oops, close something. This one's just like a nice fun little filler in the background, but if you listen to a lot of EDM music, especially of this style where it's kind of more, I don't know, I guess like electro, complextro, future bassy, there's often a lot of stuff going on in the background. So this is a nice filler for that space. The only thing we've got going on is a square wave, and it's ever so slightly detuned. And then after that, we've got a volume automation that cuts off the sound really quickly, so it doesn't play for too long. So if I were to play a note here, okay, so it does hold out, I guess, but it like the volume drops a lot after the initial hit. And then we also have that same volume automation going. Automation, it's not automation, LFO. So it kind of warbles a bit. And then here's where the fun comes in for this. On the pitch tab, we've got the envelope turned on, and it's slightly delayed. So it doesn't hit immediately. What it does is it starts the note, and then like a millisecond afterwards, it goes and shoots up an octave higher for just a split second, and then goes back down. And it adds a really nice effect. Something you wouldn't really notice too much, but it adds a nice little clickiness to it. And then I turned down the low pass a little bit on the Mod X, and that's pretty much what's going on there. So those synthesizers all together are going to sound like this. Now here's what's crazy. That's still not all of the synthesizers that go on here. So here at the drop, I add in another 2 chord stacks on top of it. Why? Because more is better, I guess. So here's what that sounds like. So we got the shaky chords, we got the mid-high, the pad. Now we've added mid-low chords. Wow, I cannot speak. Now these are pretty low in volume compared to the rest of it because I just wanted to add a little bit more in that low end. What's going on here is we got an octave lower than normal, put it on a sine wave, and slightly detuned. I also turned some of that phasing on just because I like experimenting. Then we got the square sine wave going on at its normal octave, pretty detuned, and then a square wave going, also pretty detuned the other way. Then I've got that LFO doing that volume modulation, very slight, not much going on with that. An LFO on the pitch to kind of shake it just a little bit, but not much, just like we already talked about. And that's all there is to that one. And then after that, we also have drop chords. So the reason I put these chords in was to give it a stab, to make it kind of punch through a little bit more. So it kind of clicks a little bit at the beginning. So it helps cut through the mix a lot more. And when it's sitting inside all the chords, it makes that whole chain sound huge. So we got the square saw. Oh, thank you, Ash. We got the square saw going on, slightly detuned at its normal octave. Then we got the square sine wave, actually an octave higher and slightly detuned, and only a little bit of that. And then we got that saw square going on, kind of heavily detuned and also an octave higher. So it gives a lot of crisp high end, which when it comes to drops like this and it comes to the chords, you want that kind of crispness going on, at least for this style. All right, what's going on here? I don't think I've got anything going on with the envelope or instrument settings. It's just straight up this, which is always kind of cool. So pulling everything back in sounds like this. So fun. I love it. Okay, there's one more synthesizer I have to talk about, and it's probably my favorite synth that I've ever constructed. And it's the synth lead for the song. Let's pull these drums back in. So that's what I've dubbed the pop lead. And that's because it kind of pops. It pops a lot. Oh, whoops. Left the piano on. All right, so what's going on here? We got a square wave to kind of start us off. And what I can say about square waves is like that's... Now I'm not so sure if what I'm about to say is true. And you know what? I'm going to not say it just in case it makes me look stupid. So the square wave sounds cool. Let's stick with that. It's at its normal octave, slightly, very, very slightly detuned. Then we got the square saw going on, slightly detuned as well. And then we got a lot of white noise. Well, not a lot. We actually only have a very minimal amount of white noise going on. On top of that, just to add a little high end. Not much going on here in the settings, but the magic happens once again in this pitch area. And that's because we're doing the same thing that we did on the arpeggiated synth, and that's having it after just a slight delay, very, very slight delay, shooting it up almost a full octave, and then very quickly shooting it back down to the original note. So here's what this riff sounds like without that, and then we'll turn it back on so you can hear the difference. So it makes it become instantly distinct and unique. On top of that, the way I produce this line is, the way I produce this line is a little bit different than what I normally do. So if we zoom in here and play this part. So you'll notice that if I zoom in here, we got this note playing and then it slides up for just a second and then slides down immediately. And we have that happen a couple places throughout this line, and we have a lot of slides happening where it slides up to one note or it slides down to another note. Kind of makes it shake for just a second. It's a cool little effect. That also happens on this line here. So there's a lot of weirdness going on. This song has been me just experimenting with a bunch of stuff that I've noticed in EDM music lately and just having fun with it. And it's come out a lot better than I expected. Now you may notice that we got some purple notes here along this line, and those provide the harmonies that you can't really hear too much when the whole mix comes together, but you can it kind of sits there and helps drive certain points that I want to drive. That's why they're not throughout the entire thing. They're just there during certain points that I want to emphasize. And the reason they're purple is because they're on a completely different MIDI channel. So if I had, say, this line here, if I had these green, then when I played this note, it would slide up just as much as this top note does, because this slide here affects everything within that MIDI channel. But since it's a different note and I want it to slide up only as much as I want it to, in this case, only one key rather than two like it does with the green level here, I put it on a different MIDI channel and added its own slide. So then it only listens to this slide rather than this slide note up here. Plus, it's nice for color coordinating, so I know where the harmonies are, even though the harmonies are going to be wherever there's multiple notes. I don't know. I like it. It looks kind of cool. Whatever. That's all that matters, is what I like. So that's kind of what's going on with the song throughout there. Now let's talk about the vocals. So like I said in the beginning, the vocals, I recorded it 2 keys lower. And then after finishing recording and then editing the vocal track to kind of be a bit better than what I initially recorded, I tuned it back up a couple keys. That way it's back in line with the original key of the song. Another thing is I recorded it late at night, so I couldn't be too loud. So overall, my voice kind of sounds a little bit weird. Here's a demo of that.
Lost sight of my courage, so far from the happy ending, swept up in your current and your light.
So it's an interesting sounding vocal track, but then where it gets really interesting is the vocal track underneath it right here.
Lost sight of my courage, so far from the happy ending, swept up in your current and your light.
It honestly sounds creepy as hell. But what's happening here is that the vocals are all coming through this mixer track here. I'm sending a copy of those vocals over to here in this vocal synth mixer track. And I've got this plugin called, it's frozen. I don't know if my audio froze there as well, but basically, I've got this plugin called Vocal Synth 2. This is from iZotope. I don't know how to really say that. It's like iZotope, but with the Z instead of an S. It's part of their Ozone package, which I just recently purchased, and it's amazing. What I've got going on here on this copy of the vocal track is I've got the vocoder turned on and Polyvox turned on, as well as a few effects down here like distort, transform, chorus, and delay. I've also turned down the dry level, so that means that none of the original vocal line is getting through. All that's being returned is the affected vocal line. So all the effects applied to it. So we got none of that dry level going through. And then the last thing is we got it on MIDI mode, which means that I put in just an empty MIDI track into this track. And I set it to, in this case, I set it to input 9, not import. Input 9, and then I set the MIDI track to input 9, and that MIDI track now controls what happens here in the vocal line. So for example, if I were to turn this off and then just go to that MIDI track right here and start playing the song without the original vocals turned on. Without the original vocals turned on, I'm going to mute those, and then I'm just going to play like a C chord here on my keyboard. It sounds really dumb, but that's basically what's going on. So this line here is what's going on with that. That's why there's that weird layer underneath.
Lost sight of my courage, so from a happy ending.
And it's a weird effect, but I also like it. But where it becomes really cool is right here when this first like big hit happens.
I come alive, I breathe it in. I feel the warmth of it on my skin. You're breaking through the darkest skies. You're bringing hope to my empty eyes. So pull me out and guide me home. I'll never get to it on my own. And when your light is fading out, I'll chase away all your aching down. So
It just sounds so cool. I love the way it sounds. The inspiration behind this was a song by Armin van Buuren from like, I don't know, it has to be like 6 to 8 years now, like 2010-ish. He did a song with Adam Young called Utopia. And for one, that song is amazing. I love that song. But during the first course of that song, he does a similar thing with Adam Young's vocals, where he adds a vocoder behind it that just sings all the harmonies. And it sounded so good, and I've always loved that effect. And so I've always tried to recreate it, but I've never done it very well until now. I love the way that this sounds, and I've as I'm working on the song, I find myself just going back to this moment, just listening to it a cappella. It's just so good.
I come alive, I breathe it in. I feel the warmth of it on my skin. You're breaking through the darkest skies. You're bringing hope to my empty eyes.
And then it also happens there at the section right before the drop.
Give me a reason not to love you. Give me a reason not to hold you tight. Give me a reason not to love you, and I will shatter all of your reasons tonight.
Something else I should notice there. This little automation clip here that I'm dragging around is telling the vocal to add a delay for just that one line and then turning it off. So that way it only repeats the word night.
I will shatter all of your reasons tonight.
So it makes that drop sound cooler. So once again, I'm going to go through this with all of that in mind. See if you can pick up some of those hidden pieces that are just kind of sitting there.
My side, my courage, so far from the happy ending, swept up in your current, in your light. I break free of the endless, step out to a new beginning. I lose my defenses in your eyes. I come alive, I breathe it in. I feel the warmth of it on my skin. You're breaking through the darkest skies. You're bringing hope to my empty eyes. So pull me out and guide me home. I'll never get to it on my own. And when your light is fading out, I'll chase away all your aching down. So give me a reason not to love you. Give me a reason not to hold you tight. Give me a reason not to love you, and I will shatter all of your reasons tonight.
Okay, so a couple things I forgot to mention as we've been talking about this is, number one, this vocal track that I recorded is most likely just a demo track. I don't know if I'm going to keep it right now. I don't know if I'm going to do the same thing where I record it a key or two lower and then pitch it back up? I'm still not sure. All of this has been me flying by the seat of my pants. I have no plan. I have no ideas except for what comes to me in the moment. So we'll just have to see. Second thing is, what was the second thing? Oh yeah, the kick drums. So something I failed to mention about the kick drums is what it's doing to the sound of the synthesizers. So let me pull up the kick mixer track, which is right here, the main kick. And if you look here on the mixer, you'll notice that it's kind of stemming out to a couple different tracks. The main one being here, the sidechain synth bus. So all of the synthesizers that I want this effect to take place on are going into this mixer track. So that includes shaky chords, mid-high chords, mid-low chords, drop chords, the pad, the fat bass. The pop lead is not going into that because I don't want the effect on that, and neither is the ARP synth. So what the effect is every time the kick plays, the volume of any other track that's connected to it will duck down for just a second, so the kick will sit on top of it. And that causes this cool sounding like volume wave. Let me show you with just like the pad. That's not gonna work. Let's also turn down the bass. Let's try just the shaky chords. And let's turn off everything else, including that crash. That's annoying. I think the best way for me to show it off actually will be if I go up to a random track. Let's find the kick, and I'm just gonna do like a random pattern like this. And I'm going to grab the drop chords. And let's just play this pattern real quick. So you hear how that volume kind of ducks every time that kick hits. This is a technique known as sidechaining. And so I've got most of my synthesizers being sidechained like that. The bass synthesizer as well is being sidechained. I think it's mostly just the synthesizers that are having that effect. And what that allows the track to do is to make sure that the kick shines through a lot more, and also it just sounds straight up cool. It's a fun effect that you'll find on like a lot of electronic music, especially the styles I mentioned earlier, like future bass, complextro. I mean, even dubstep, even though it's so old at this point, like that has a lot of it going on. A lot of electronic music these days has a lot of side chaining going on. So that's another main thing I wanted to kind of bring up. And then the last thing I wanted to kind of mention is this last section here. And you may notice how it has a lot of empty spots throughout it. And that's because these spots aren't finished at all. I plan on having a lot going on throughout this drop. Some common things that you'll see in other songs are like glitched out vocals where they kind of make a melody of their own. Other synthesizers, maybe even some smaller FM basses, which are the main like dubstep growls that you'll hear in those old Skrillex songs and things like that. Nothing to that effect. I don't want anything like that really here, but maybe like something small going on in the background. Probably some arpeggiated synths, some extra percussion, just to add some variation. We want this lead that I've got playing here to be on top. I want that to be kind of the main thing, but we don't want that to, when it cuts out, kind of kill all momentum. We want something still there filling that and making it sound a lot more complex than the track really is in reality. So that's my next job, is to figure out how I'm going to structure that. I don't know if I'm ready to tackle that today. I need to do a little bit more research by listening to other songs. But the main thing of it is we want this synth to be on top, and that becomes pretty apparent in the second half of it. Because a lot more starts happening with that synthesizer. There's like less of those breaks and less of those pauses, so it takes more of the limelight there. And I wanted it to be that way because it feels like the first time it plays, you want it to be kind of simple, but then let's start adding some variety to it. Let's start making it unique and different from the first time it plays around. One last thing to note is this white bar that plays sometimes during the drum tracks. What that is some white noise. So I'm going to turn off the synthesizers real quick. So we've just got the, what am I looking for? Piano. It's just got the drums, and I'll point out that white noise wherever it is. Oh, vocals as well. Quiet. And let me turn off the reverb. So you hear that sweeping noise that just kind of rises up during the during the tail end of that. Oh, I didn't mute the delay. My bad. So what that white noise does is it makes for a good riser and a good kind of like starting hit to a drop, I guess you could say. And that's being controlled here on this automation clip, this pink one that kind of rises up, goes down, and then rises up like a shark fin, and then immediately goes down, and then immediately plays and falls down again. What that is a Fruity Free filter. So it's a simple low pass. What the low pass does is it cuts out the high end. So if you imagine you've got a chart that shows all the frequencies. So you got from your low to your mids to your mid highs to the high end. What this does is it basically adds a volume curve around here and says the lower you put that low pass, the more we're going to cut off the high end going down. So I put that on the white noise, and it starts really low. So it's only like the lowest of those frequencies. And as it raises up, it starts letting more of that high end come in until it's at the top where the full thing is playing. You have the rest of the frequencies in there. So here's that again. So it kind of adds some tension, and then also adds some relief if you place it right. Let me pull everything back in again.
Give me a reason not to love you, and I will shatter all of your reasons tonight.
So that's basically what's going on with the track. And like it always happens every time I start streaming and talking about the songs that I've been working on, I have to go. So if I didn't stream, I would have probably gotten a lot of work done towards this section where I add in a lot of noises and a lot of other unique things going on. But unfortunately, I've got plans that I forgot about. I don't know why this always happens, but that's life. That is life. So anyway, thank you, one person who is my sister, for watching. For anyone who's watching this after the live stream, I hope you got something out of it. I know that for me, watching other producers produce music like this has what's kind of gotten me back into the mood to do some electronic stuff, and it's given me a lot of inspiration. So I hope with this, you at least feel a little bit inspired. If not, I hope you liked what you listened to and you had fun learning along with me, I guess. Thank you guys just for watching. I hope you guys have a good, wonderful, fantastic, and amazing weekend. Ashley, thank you for saying nice job. I appreciate that. Oh, there's other people watching? I only see one person online. It might be myself and my other account that's watching the comments that can see this as well. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. If there are other people watching right now live, thank you guys for watching as well. I really appreciate it. Anyway, I don't know when this song is going to be done. It's not a main project of mine. It's very much a spur of the moment, out of the blue. I really want to make this, so I'm going to make it kind of song. But like I mentioned at the beginning, I actually have an album that's in the works. I don't have any information that I can share with you yet. Not that it really matters. But I can tell you that it's some of the best stuff that I've watched, or not watched, that I've written and recorded in a long time. I am so dead tired. It's gonna have 13 tracks, I can tell you that, and it's some good stuff. I'm really excited to release this one. I've been working really hard on it. Yeah, it's gonna be good. So Sheepwave is gonna be revived here shortly with some new music content. I've got some plans to revive the content to what I want it to be. I'm really excited for what's coming in the future for Sheepwave. So I hope you guys stick around. Hope you enjoyed the music. Yeah, peace out. Love you guys and all of that mess. And now I'm going to sit here because I don't know how long I need to wait until that message gets across. Let me turn on the video I've got. So dead tired. It's gonna have 13 tracks, I can tell you that, and it's some good stuff. I'm really excited to release this one. I've been working really hard on it. I think we're good if I stop streaming now. I'm gonna end the stream. So if you're still around and you still hear me, bye.